Hello and welcome to the Living Room Lecture Series. I'm your host Tyler, and joining me today is Mackenzie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Tyler. I'm happy to be here.
All right, thank you for joining me. So today on this lecture series, we will be talking about the wild beginnings of breakfast cereal. Mackenzie, what do you know about the beginnings of breakfast cereal?
I don't really know anything
Perfect.
about breakfast cereal except that, some people start their day with it.
Right. What's your favorite cereal?
Honey
All
Nut
right,
Cheerio.
that's cool. I didn't care. All right. Mackenzie, what is the most important meal of the day?
I'm going to assume breakfast, Tyler.
You're darn diddly right. It's breakfast. Breakfast has been called the most important meal of the day. It is the first meal of the day. What breakfast foods do you think of when you think of a healthy, balanced breakfast, Mackenzie?
I think of yogurt and granola. I think that's what healthy people eat, and fruits.
All right. Maybe some avocado toast in there. Some oatmeal and fruit, like you said. You hit the nail on the head there.
I missed avocado toast.
Taco Bell, if you're feeling it. That salsa is pretty good. Maybe if you're British, beans on toast in it.
Please never show me that picture again.
What about cereal? Now, cereal is a main stage in American society. You have Tony the Tiger, Toucan Sam, OJ Joe.
Ooh.
The classics. All staples from our childhood that create an instant connection between character and a product. These fun-loving characters who help kids win sporting events, take care of their nephews, or maybe lasso up some oranges. It's been a staple of American households for over 100 years. And a way for cereal companies to market their boxes of sugar to small children who can beg their parents to spend more money. Cereal is enjoyed every morning by millions of Americans of all ages. There's no other food product that's enjoyed by all other demographics quite like those bowls of breakfast crunch. Maybe like hot dogs or something. A lot of people like hot dogs.
I wouldn't say so.
No? All right. But did you know that breakfast cereal was actually invented to help you poop?
No, I did not.
Not only was cereal invented as some sort of laxative, the inventor of cereal intended for the product to curb sexual desires and to prevent the act of masturbation.
Why are there so much watermarks on these pictures of people going to the bathroom and crossing out their vaginas?
This is the story of John Harvey Kellogg. John Harvey Kellogg was born in Tyrone, Michigan in 1852.
Oh, fire up. Where is that? Wait, where is that?
It's that little marker right there. So that's Tyrone. And his family decided to move to Battle Creek, Michigan in the bottom left there. Due to the emergence of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. The Seventh-day Adventists are a Christian denomination founded in Battle Creek by James and Ellen White. This Christian group is like any other Christian denomination, but they're health nuts. Most are vegetarian, and the church discourages its members from consuming tobacco, alcohol, drugs, processed foods, and caffeine. This comes from Ellen, who's interpreting Genesis chapter 1, verse 29, way too seriously. The verse reads, "And God said, Behold, I have given every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat." And apparently that means that
You should be a vegetarian?
Yeah, it means you should be a vegetarian and you shouldn't drink caffeine. She took this as God's order to have a vegetarian diet with some grains mixed in. Ellen also warned against indulging in the influences of greasy fried fare, spicy condiments, and pickled foods, against overeating, against using drugs of any kind, and against wearing binding corsets, wigs, and tight dresses.
This lady needs to, shut the hell up. Why is she so mad about happiness? At first, I was like, binding corsets I get. Binding corsets are, the forefront of women oppression But wigs?
No wigs.
I love wigs. I'm sure bald people like wigs too. Tight dresses? I love tight dresses. And I'm sure drag queens do too. So what I'm hearing is Ellen hates drag queens.
Such evils, she taught, led to morally and physically destructive self-vice of masturbation and the less lonely vice of excessive sexual intercourse, which is just like having sex without the intent of having a child.
Uh-oh. Maybe this Ellen chick was on to something. Every time I put on a wig, I masturbate.
A part of the Seventh-day Adventist faith is that they believed in a second coming of Christ. So you have to live every day according to the gospel, which was being written by Ellen White. So her followers claimed that she had a gift of prophecy.
Oh.
So if you remember John Harvey, who moved to Battle Creek to be closer to this religion, his parents decided not to send him to school because they believed that Jesus was coming, and decided to make him work in his dad's broom factory, sorting brooms.
Oh, why? Is that the brooms that they sold? I don't know. That is, woof. Wait, I have a question. One, that would lay down more dirt than I think it would pick up. But two, I forgot my question. When did he move to Battle Creek? Like, how old?
So this happened in like, I think 18, he was born in 1852.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so this probably happened in like the 1850s.
When were the slaves liberated?
I think around 1852.
Enough said.
When was the Civil War? 1861.
Enough said.
Yeah, slavery was still a thing.
Enough said. Who was making that cereal? Actually, that's not true. So, they believed in a second coming of Christ.
Yep,
Ellen, so Ellen she created this Seventh Adventist church.
So Ellen White created the Seventh-day Adventist Church after a different guy, who I'm forgetting his name. He had a different religion, and he tried to predict when Jesus was coming. And so he predicted one day, and he was wrong. And so they're like, okay, you get one more chance.
There goes his credibility.
And so they gave him a second chance, and he said another day, and he was wrong again. So they called that day the Great Disappointment, with like the G and the D capitalized, and then started their own religion.
Woof.
So he spent his childhood sorting brooms in his dad's broom factory.
I'm confused. They didn't want him to waste time learning.
Yeah.
Because Jesus was coming, so instead he wasted his time working?
Sorting brooms, yeah. And sorting brooms sounds so boring. Like, couldn't he have a cooler job of like sorting weapons or something?
Sorting weapons?
So if I organize it Molotov cocktail, gun, pepper spray, it's fine. But if I order it gun, Molotov cocktail, pepper spray, then...
YouTube poop.
Although he didn't...
What the hell is that? Thank you for showing me that. That would have been a much cooler job. Well, so is that the explanation for why he wasn't sorting weapons?
Yeah.
Could have been a dangerous job for an 8-year-old.
Yeah. Although he didn't go to school, John Harvey loved to read and became quite smart despite not going to school. Because of this, James and Ellen White hired him to be a protege when he was 12, making him work as a printer's apprentice. This is where he found...
Like Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah, sure.
Wait, for a newsprint?
Yeah. Well, this is where he found his love for reading, and when he turned 16, he began editing for the church's health advice magazine, The Health Reformer.
Uh-oh.
James and Ellen White became John Harvey's second parents, spending most of his formative years working with him, so much so that Ellen once wrote that, quote, her husband had acted more to a father than John Kellogg than to his own sons.
Jesus, maybe.
Because of this, Ellen and James decided to send John Harvey to medical school. John Harvey, who, remember, is now going to school for the first time in his life, is first sent to the Michigan State Normal College, now Eastern Michigan.
Fire up.
Go Eagles, in Ypsilanti, and then moved down the road to U of M in Ann Arbor, and finally finished his education. Go Blue.
Go Wolverines.
And finally finished his education at the Bellevue Hospital in New York.
Wow. Oh, shit. I have a question.
Ask away.
Isn't there a guy named John Harvey Oswald?
It's Lee Harvey Oswald. And
Oh.
he shot JFK. Yeah, Booth
Oh.
killed Lincoln. The idea of sending John Harvey to medical school wasn't random. James and Ellen had a purpose. They wanted him in charge of their health resort that they built in Battle Creek in 1866. The health resort was called the Western Health Reform Institute and was a world-famous medical center, grand hotel, and spa. In 1876, after finishing his schooling, John Harvey became the medical superintendent, and his brother, Will, became the head of HR.
Aw.
He then changed the name to the Battle Creek Sanitarium.
That's funny. I just realized that's Toby.
Yes. That is Toby. He then changed the name to Battle Creek Sanitarium. Sanitarium, a word John Harvey made up after switching a few letters from the already established word sanatorium, which is the name for health spas for disabled veterans. There's a little picture of it.
Why did he change the name?
That's what he did. He liked to make his own thing, and then change one letter. This is a common theme.
Sounds like a narcissist.
Remember this, yeah. So John Harvey turned the SAN. That's what they called it, the sanatorium. They called it the SAN. He turned the SAN into a university of health, where he would preach the Adventist views of disease prevention, sound digestion, and wellness. The sanatorium was a huge success at a time, with peak years hitting 15,000 patients.
Whoa.
Celebrities from the time also visited John Harvey, people like Sojourner Truth, Complete Loser Thomas Edison,
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Nazi and car maker Henry Ford,
Oh, woof.
and
Henry Ford.
yeah. Oh shit!
I was like, Nazi? Yes.
I put the wrong Nazi
Car
on there.
maker? Yes.
Yeah, I put the wrong Nazi car
That's
maker.
hilarious.
If I had a nickel for every time there was a Nazi car maker, I'd have two. I put the wrong one up there.
That's so funny.
And pilot Amelia Earhart. Although after a while, Amelia did stop showing up, so that was kind of.
Yeah. I wonder if she was going to eat crab somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't know. These people praised John Harvey and the work he was doing and encouraged others to check out the sanatorium. A person's diet was the main focus when it came to treatment inside the SAN. You see, there was a disease that took over America in the mid 1800s called dyspepsia. Dyspepsia was a catch-all term for all things that Pepto-Bismol covers. Constipation, upset stomach, diarrhea. That's the one. Among other things, all at the same time. This was called the Great American Evil. The root of tummy aches all across America was the unhealthy breakfast at the time. They ate a lot of potatoes, cooking them by frying them in the congealed fat from last night's dinner. They were served heavily salted meats, a lot of brown bread, and if that didn't sound appetizing, then you could go with the other option, a nice hearty bowl of gruel or mush made out of barley, wheat, or oats. This left a cereal-sized hole in the diets of Americans everywhere.
That's a rectangle.
It's a cereal box.
Oh.
So John Harvey and Will Keith Kellogg invented it, is what the Kellogg's website says. Modern-day cereal was actually introduced in 1863 by James Caleb Jackson in his sanitarium in New York. His version...
Did he call it coral?
No. So, his version was made out of gram flour and was so dense that it needed to soak in milk or water overnight in order to be edible in the morning.
Ugh.
He called it granula. John Harvey, desperate for ideas, visited James Caleb Jackson in New York and saw his granula and decided to steal the recipe, make it his own, calling it granula. James Caleb Jackson
Okay.
saw this and forced John Harvey to change the name. So he changed the name, and granola it was.
Wow.
Yeah. The recipe is different, however. John Harvey used wheat, oats, and corn and rolled his dough out before baking, making it easier to eat.
Fascinating.
That being said, granola was just as disgusting as granula was.
Yeah.
That is until John Harvey, who was notoriously cheap and didn't throw things away, left dough out overnight. And this caused the dough to ferment, a process called tempering. So there's the dough. Tempering, which makes the dough mold.
Yeah.
But in like in a delicious way. In like
No.
like in a sourdough way.
Ugh.
John Harvey then rolled the dough super thin, causing flakes to form. And after a quick trip in the oven,
Wow.
the first cornflakes were made.
Aw, that's
It
cute.
is up in the air on whose idea it was to roll out the dough super thin. John Harvey claims it came to him in a dream.
Mm-hmm.
His wife, Ella, says it was her idea to roll the dough out. And his brother, Will, said that he was tasked to recreate the process from that night. Therefore, he invented it. But on April 14th, 1896, a patent for flake cereal and the process of preparing the same was issued to John Harvey alone. A simple breakfast cereal wasn't the only thing John Harvey had a patent for. He was the leader in developing medical technology, when the methodology was questionable at best. First, he believed that you should chew something 40 times before swallowing, giving you an insane jawline. Can you imagine chewing cornflakes 40 times before swallowing?
That's
Isn't
disgusting.
that disgusting? It just turns into goop in your mouth.
Ew. You can make glue out of that shit.
Exactly.
No need for horses
He also
anymore.
invented electric light baths, which is basically a tanning bed. Patients would go into the small box and have lights illuminate their bodies. John Harvey claimed that this would cure diabetes, insomnia, gangrene, syphilis, and even writer's cramp. Using light to cure diabetes, that makes as much sense as using a lemon as a battery.
I'm scared.
Hey man, you want to play some Smash? Dude, I would love to, but the battery that came with my Switch is terrible. It dies in like 2 minutes. John Harvey also believed in water and using water to cure ailments. One treatment used in the sanatorium was a continuous bath, which is like a normal bath, but could last for, quote, many hours, days, weeks, or months, as the case may require. Could you imagine how pruny your fingers would get? Oh, shit.
What the hell is that? I'm really enjoying these extra little clips.
That was the last one, I'm sorry.
Ah.
So not only would he have people sit in baths for months, he also believed in water enemas to get those hard-to-reach places. In a normal water enema today, you would use a pint or two of liquid. One Ben & Jerry's tub of the Tonight Dough starring Jimmy Fallon. John Harvey liked to use 15 quarts of water, which is equivalent to 30 Ben & Jerry's tubs.
Oh, God.
A minute.
There's... What?
30 Ben & Jerry's
There's no
tubs
room.
up your ass a minute.
There's not room up there.
Not only would he use water, but he liked to use a yogurt treatment where you would eat half the yogurt and use the other half as an irrigating fluid.
Ugh, in
There
your
will be-
butt?
There will be no skit for this invention.
Please, I'd like a visual. I'm a visual learner.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he would shoot yogurt up people's butts
For why?
to make them healthy.
Is that like a douche for your butt?
Yeah, basically. John Harvey also invented the vibrating chair, which is like a wooden chair that would vibrate in order to stimulate your bowels to make you poop.
That's so funny because I thought Ellen didn't like masturbation.
She doesn't.
With that chair?
Ellen, this is post Ellen.
R.I.P.
He also invented the electric horse that would vibrate as the rider sat on the saddle.
Dude, this is sus.
These inventions were so popular and established in the wealthy community that the electric horse was in the White House when Calvin Coolidge was president.
Bro.
And the other machines could be found on the first deck of the Titanic, which, in case you haven't seen the movie, spoiler alert, is at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean right now.
Ah, shit. I was really hoping to go on that. What is the horse for?
Make you poop.
I don't understand.
Everything is to make you poop.
This guy is really into shit.
He used to take dictation on his poop. He used to have his brother write about his poop.
Good grief. I think I should start doing this.
Might be good. Pooping isn't the only bodily function that John Harvey was obsessed with. He loved writing about masturbation.
Yes.
To be more specific, the act of not masturbating.
No.
For him, every month was No Nut November.
Bro.
In his book, Plain Facts for the Old and Young, he wrote how to prevent your child from participating in wanking. One passage states, a remedy which is almost always successful in small boys is circumcision. As the brief pain attending the operation will have a salutary effect upon the mind, especially if it be connected to the idea of punishment, as it may be in some cases. The soreness, which continues for several weeks, interrupts the practice, and this had not been previously come too firmly affixed, it may be forgotten and not resumed. So, he is calling, if you catch your son masturbating, to take him to the doctor to be circumcised, no anesthetic. Another cure to constant gooning is tying the foreskin together. As he wrote, another method of treatment consists in the application of one or more silver sutures in such a way to prevent erection altogether. The foreskin is drawn forward over the glands, and the needle to which the wire is attached is passed through from one side to the other. After drawing the wire through, the ends are twisted together and cut off close. It is now impossible for an erection to occur.
Is that even true?
Yeah. The slight irritation thus produced acts as the most powerful means to overcoming the disposition in order to resort to the practice.
Okay. Wayne Gretzky?
Literally sewing your dick shut. What do you mean Wayne Gretzky? Oh. Yeah, I was trying to quote it. I think that's a Wayne Gretzky quote.
Yeah.
I think he said that after he won the cup.
He said, you miss 100% of the penises you don't close.
Yes.
I have a question, though. I don't understand. Is there a visual?
I'll show you later.
I just don't understand. If you take your foreskin, here's what I'm imagining. You take your foreskin, you pull it up, and then close it.
Yeah, he sews it shut.
That still wouldn't prevent you from having an erection. It would just really hurt if you got one.
Yeah. You can't control it.
The slight irritation thus produced acts as the most powerful means of overcoming the disposition to resort to the practice. So he's saying every time you get a boner, it's going to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, you won't want to do it.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, isn't that insane?
For children?
Yeah.
This guy should be locked up.
Just wait.
Ugh.
Women weren't off the hook either.
Damn.
Mm-hmm. He knew women like to masturbate as well. For them, he had an easier method to stop grinding the bean.
Oh.
Just drop some carbolic acid down there, and the bean shall no longer be flicked. He had some ideas that didn't work out as well, like tying your hands together, which would probably just make it easier. And then he made the first ever cock cage, meaning that not only did he then invent cereal, yogurt enemas, and the early tanning bed, he also invented the humiliation fetish.
I was going to say, I think some of these things are going to turn into a kink in some way, shape, or form. What's this?
Humiliation fetish.
Oh, he's a cock.
Yeah. His wife and him slept in separate bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout their marriage.
Who would have thunk? A man who doesn't like women to feel pleasure didn't sleep in the same room as his wife. Anywho. Oh, no.
It gets worse.
But I have a question. What's carbonic acid?
I don't know. Some kind of acid that
hurts?
Probably. I didn't look into it. If you remember at the beginning of the lecture, you'll remember that John Harvey Kellogg grew up very religious, meaning that his religious views seeped into his medical practices, obviously. One specifically was eugenics.
Oh, not again.
When you think of eugenics, you may think of the Nazi Party and their cleansing of the Jews in Europe. A lot of the inspiration for eugenic ideals within the Nazi Party were taken from this part of American history. Eugenics in the 1880s believed that people were deemed high value characteristics should procreate, while telling those who seemed unfit that they shouldn't have kids because they would bring down the whole world. John Harvey was a firm believer in eugenics. He was the founder of the Race Betterment Foundation and organized the first national conference on race betterment, hosting it at the sanitarium in 1913. This multi-day conference hosted talks from over 400 eugenics experts.
Yeah, lots of those, huh?
John Harvey also wrote a paper entitled Needed, A New Human Race, where he called for everyone to participate in eugenics. This led to a law being passed in Michigan, which allowed for eugenics push sterilizations. After this law was passed, there were 3,786 officially documented sterilizations.
Good God.
67% were mentally deficient, 11% were insane, and then the other 13 were sexual deviants, epileptic, or moral degenerates, which back then were black and poor people.
Who'd have thunk? Were these voluntary?
No, probably not, no.
Okay. I really think that Alexander Graham Bell and John Harvey Kellogg would get along greatly. They were alive during the same time because Alexander Graham Bell hosted a conference about why deaf people shouldn't be able to use sign language in 1880. So maybe they were kissing.
Maybe Alexander Graham Bell dropped by the sand to have his butt pumped with yogurt.
Probably did. That guy's a fucking freak, and he didn't have sex with his wife because he believed in eugenics, and his wife was deaf. Sick freak.
John Harvey Kellogg is just the Kanye of the early 1900s. Both Nazis, and both created something I can consume while feeling bad about myself. Speaking of consuming things, John Harvey created cereal. And cereal still tastes like the leftovers from the yogurt enema.
Ew.
Will, John Harvey's brother, hated the taste of granola, along with everyone else who ate it. Will had the idea of adding sugar to the mix in order to make the food edible, but John Harvey thought this was the work of the devil as he wanted breakfast food to be health-based, to help you poop. Will got his way and produced the first ever cornflakes with sugar. This started the split between the two brothers, which was finalized when a patient at the sanatorium, C.W. Post, took the idea of creating flake cereal after seeing the process in Battle Creek and created his own version called Grape Nuts. After he made $1 million, Will Keith became upset and started the Battle Creek Toasted Cornflake Company, which later turned into the Kellogg Company. This was the nail in the coffin when it came to the relationship between Will Keith and John Harvey Kellogg. Because of World War II and the Great Depression, citizens were unable to afford the services of a luxury health spa, meaning that the sanitarium was forced to shut its doors and sell the building to the Army, who turned it into an Army hospital, forcing John Harvey into retirement. He would die in 1943 and be buried in Oak Hill Cemetery in Battle Creek. After leaving his entire estate to, you guessed it, the Race Betterment Foundation.
Oh,
yeah,
gross.
All his money. Will Keith, on the other hand, started a cereal empire, promoting his breakfast foods across America and the world. Within the company's first year, they sold 180,000 cases with like 5 or 6 boxes a case. Will tried a lot of marketing ploys like Wink Wednesday. In the early 1920s, where in New York, if you winked at a grocer on a Wednesday, they would give you a free box of cornflakes. This was like prostitution at the time. So it was a little risky for the Kellogg's brand, but it worked out. This brings us to the 1950s. In 1951, Will Keith would die, was buried at Oak Hill Cemetery in Battle Creek, right next to his brother, who hated each other.
Hopefully they had like a fence up between them.
I mean, there's a little fence right there. The next year, the world would be introduced to a certain talking tiger who right away started shilling unhealthy, sugar-filled carbs to kids all across the world in a lie that breakfast cereal is a good way to start your morning. Wait, does that mean that Tony the Tiger is secretly a eugenicist? Oh no!